book, and you've read the book, so I won't bore you with all the details. But one thing I didn't discuss in the book is how we would record, and we would record on the way to a gig quite often. Sometimes we'd have 2 days in the studio, but that would be to make an album for 2 days. Back then you'd have like 2 or 3 hours to make A-side and B-side. And A-side had to be no longer than 2 minutes 10 seconds in 1965, 66, 67. The BBC wouldn't play anything over 2 minutes 10. So if you had a song of 2:12, forget it. Same time. And even if you lied, and we actually, later in the Faces, it got to be 3.5 minutes. And we had one instrumental that was 5:70. I mean, we had it written down as 5:96 or something. It slipped past us. But anyway, back in 65, 66, it was 2 minutes 10 seconds. And our manager, our thief manager, would, because he was a professional thief and a very good manager too, but he was basically a thief to start with, and a thug. He once had us up to the office to introduce us to Mad Tom. We'd never heard of Mad Tom. But Don Alton, our manager, and our agent, who later ran away to New Zealand with some money of Don's. I don't think he ever survived that trip. Anyway, we were with some really beautiful people in the early 65, 66. But anyway, one day, Don invited us up to the office on the way to a gig, and our big burly driver, who was also a bit of a thug, Bill Corbett.
Beatles driver now.
Yeah, he'd been the Beatles driver. He told us back then, this might be, that's okay, we're all over 12, aren't we? We'd be smoking hash in the car, and he would get upset, and he'd say, you know, I drove the Beatles, you know, they never did any drugs. Right. And we said, well, you know what fab gear means, don't you? He said, yeah, it's the clothes. I said, no, it's good hash. That's what that term meant. We had our own. We'd say, it's nice to be nice. I mean, it's nice to be high. Anyway, Bill Corbett said, no, they were from outer space. They were. We said, no, Bill, you got the wrong people. Anyway, he took us up to the office one day, and Don wanted us to meet Mad Tom. And Bill Corbett was about 6'3", 6'5", and a big burly ex-boxer. And this guy made him look like an imp. And we were already short. None of us over 5'6". And there's all these towering guys. And he said, this is Mad Tom. And Steve Marriott, having all the pluck and all the go and everything, said, hello, Tom. Cocky as anything. And Mad Tom grabbed him by the collar and pulled him off the floor. He said, Mad Tom, are you? So we knew then we'd better behave ourselves. If we wanted to leave Don Hard, we'd have to, you know, find another way out. I don't know how you do it. Anyway, that's got nothing to do with this song. But it leads me to tell you how we used to record. This was a B-side, so we'd record the A-side on the way to a gig, and that was done quick. We had only 4 tracks, basic track on 1, the lead vocal was track 2, backing vocals, all of us on track 3, and track 4 was for the piano, organ, or guitar solo. That was it. And we'd be ready to go, and Don would say, right, B-side, and we'd look at each other, and we didn't have a B-side. Sometimes we'd just make up an instrument. And people over the years have often asked me to play Grow Your Own, which was one of the 3 or 4 instrumentals we put on as B-sides. But I said, no, we played it once. It was like, okay, you want to start with that? Okay, go. Record, boom, we cut it. That was it, no vocals to do. You know, we were in the van, in the car, on the way to a gig. Anyway, it's sort of something like this. 10 seconds and we're off. But this is one time. Do you know who Paul Weller is? Okay, well, he's not so big in America, but he's the biggest champion of the small faces. And he's a mod, like we were mods, but he's a mod, the next generation. When I heard about him, I thought he was someone I hadn't heard at the time, back in the 60s, but he's a 70s mod. And they call him now the mod father, which makes me the mod grandfather. But he said to me once, because he's a big Ronnie Lane fan, big Small Faces fan, Steve Marriott fan. In fact, one of his kids is called Stevie Mac, after me and Steve Marriott. But he said, you know what my favourite record is, Mac? Oh, the Small Faces, because he talks like that. I said, no. He said, get yourself together. I said, I've never heard of it. He said, oh, you're kidding. It's your shining hour. And it was one of those, it was a B-side.
Oh, that's funny.
Steve had the song, Steve and Ronnie had the song. We went, okay, we played it, like in dressing rooms, in hotel rooms. So we recorded it, and never heard it again. we only played the A-sides on stage, you know. And then, 2 or 3 months later we'd have another A-side, so we'd discard that one. Unless it was something big, like Itchy Park or Lazy Sunday, we discarded that quite soon because we didn't like it. But that's how, all or nothing, we kept playing that one. But Tin Soldier, we played that. Anyway, this one we never even heard. We finished in the studio. They went and completely forgot about it, at least I did.
One with words, no?
Lyrics. No, they're lyrics now. Yeah, they used to be called words. Now it's a composition. It's not a tune anymore. And it's the Steve Marriott, Ronnie Lane composition. God bless them. It's called Get Yourself Together.